Hello, my name is Killian O'Connor. I am filling out the video pre-interview for East Kentwood High School, the social studies teaching position. Answer a few questions. I'm kind of referring to my notes here, so I apologize if I'm looking down at all. I'm just checking my little sheets. So question 1, what experiences have prepared you to teach social studies at the largest and most diverse high school in Michigan? So, my previous experience teaching has pretty much all been at large suburban and urban environment high schools. Mostly in Metro Detroit, a little bit in the Grand Rapids area, but mostly Metro Detroit. All of these teaching social studies as well. So it allows me to work with students from a very diverse range of both backgrounds, ideologically, socioeconomically, everything. These students all have very unique learning needs, and I find it a very fulfilling part of being an educator, modifying and kind of tweaking my teaching style to accommodate for those students, to make my classroom as adaptable and effective when it comes to accommodating for those students. I believe that my time kind of working in those large classroom settings, interacting with a lot of students in each classroom every single day, has prepared me to kind of fit well in a large school setting, large diverse school setting. Question 2. What does a high-energy, student-focused classroom look like in your teaching, and how do you keep students actively engaged in learning every day? So, building relationships with my students is a very crucial part of the classroom culture I'm trying to develop. So, I don't really think that's possible unless I can tie the curriculum into these students' everyday lives. Fortunately, with social studies, I've found it relatively easy to do this. I'm very good at taking the topic we're discussing and applying it to these students' lives outside of the classroom. I kind of use this combined with reflection. I want these students to think about what they're learning, to kind of share their general thoughts with what's being discussed, and technological applications. So them being able to research things on their computer, take pictures in the world and share them of just things that tie into what we're discussing. As long as students feel more involved in their education, I think that's a great way to kind of foster that high energy, student-focused environment. All right? If you're able to show them that they're able to take part, to actively contribute, I think it's both encouraging and it generally allows them to be more interested in what's being discussed in the classroom. So number 3, please give an example of a lesson or project you designed that got students out of their seats and truly involved in hands-on learning, and what made it successful. So during my time as a long-term sub and immediately after during student teaching, government, or civics as it's sometimes called, was my main subject. I taught that, U.S. history, and world history, but government primarily. It's not usually the student's favorite. Usually it's kind of a required class. At the school I was at, it only lasted one semester, and it's very easy to kind of go through the motions in that class. It's relatively cut and dry material. You get a lot of other teachers who have made things in the past that you can just kind of cut and paste. But it's very easy to kind of fall into that trap. What you want to do is kind of make it as approachable and understandable for these students as possible. And I really do that by, again, showing them how it ties into their everyday life. We had a mini project during our chapter on interest groups that I put together, where students can either work individually or in pairs, and they develop their own interest group. So I give them one of those long pieces of paper, kind of an 8.5 by 14-inch paper, so it's a little longer, just piece of printer paper. And they make kind of a poster, a brochure for their interest group. I found this to be very effective. The students reacted to it very well. They were asking a lot of questions about what they could include. I said that these interest groups can either apply to just the school, they could be the city they live in, or they could be the state or the whole country. So if they have an issue that they're very committed to and focusing on that is countrywide, that's more than acceptable, or if there's something just in the school that them individually or with their partner want to get accomplished to make the school a better place for the students. So you had students whose entire interest group, their goal was, we want to shorten the school day, or we want to take an hour off the beginning and add an hour on the end. And they explained why this would be good for everyone, and so on. Other students, very focused on nature. So they want more environmental protection. So they're going to explain some goals related to kind of conservation and things like that. They get up and share at the end of the week. They have a few days to work on it. It allows them to kind of exercise their creativity too, because they're able to make a logo and kind of talk about these issues, kind of express themselves. And I just found it was a very effective little mini project. It wasn't quite a full project, just only a couple of days devoted to it. So it was very effective in that small amount of time. And I think this is because its success is because it, again, connected the content to the real world, and it allowed these students to make their kind of desires and goals for changing their community known, and showing them how that ties into the modern day government allows it to be a really effective and kind of productive lesson, especially with the presentation part. The students love that, and just kind of opening it up to questions at the end so they can bounce some ideas off their classroom, their classmates about that kind of stuff. All right, and question 4. How do you build strong relationships with students while maintaining high expectations in your classroom? So I feel that honesty and open, clear communication are the foundation of building student relationships while still maintaining a very high-functioning classroom. I make the classroom standards and norms very clear and accessible as early as I can. This way, I think that students are able to kind of adjust. Maybe they're not used to that set of classroom rules, but telling them that early and making it accessible, that's the key thing. Being able to refer back to these rules, refer back to these standards in class, makes it very approachable and understandable for students. And once that's understood, I feel that's a great starting point for building those relationships, for getting in discussions with students, engaging them about content, engaging them about just their everyday lives, showing an interest in their interests, things like that. And while I prefer to run a pretty tight ship in the classroom, I like the rules to be followed. And again, very, very plainly presented to them. And they're offered access all year, both students and parents. I understand these students have lives out of the classroom, and I think that's very important to apply. I insist upon making it really clear to these students that if something's going on, if they need to talk to me about something that's kind of keeping them from fully participating in class, I'm more than willing to discuss it with them. I'm more than willing to work out a plan so they can really succeed in the classroom. That's just kind of an adaptability. I want the class to be structured and kind of firm in that structure, but at the same time, flexible and having the ability to adapt to student needs or just events in students' lives that may occur that could potentially interrupt their learning. I'm trying to avoid that by just being flexible, by working with these students. And again, that applies to other workers at the school, other administration, teachers, things like that, parents. Just keeping those open lines of communication is extremely important to me. And I think it's the only real way to run a high-functioning yet tight classroom community. And I think that's question 4. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I look forward to hearing from you very soon. And again, my contact information, I believe it's in the email, but just to make sure, my phone number is 586-246-3310. And the preferred email for me, I think right now it's KillianJames20@gmail. That one works. I also have KillianJ635@gmail.com. That's another one. I'm available at both phone and email pretty much every single day during the week. I'm excited to hear from you. Thank you for reaching out.